EA has heard our feedback and changes are already coming to NHL 24. Hello and welcome back to the channel, I'm Sapster, and NHL 24 is right down the road. 1 month away, October, we get our hands on NHL 24, and EA has already presented us with some big news regarding patch notes regarding the previous technical playtest. NHL 24 drops on October 3rd, and EA will be dropping a patch that same day to address some of the issues that the community had with the technical playtest. All of this was dropped in an interview between No Sleeves 12 and lead design director Mike Engelhart. We were already made aware of the hybrid control scheme and old goalie control scheme being reintroduced back into NHL 24, but let's see what other tidbits that they have left for us.
What puck possession means to the sustained pressure meter in the offensive zone. So we've ratcheted that down by 30%. So if you're possessing the puck and you're trying just to run the meter from 0 to max holding it, it's going to be really hard to do. Well, we want to encourage more action, shots on goals and hits. Those carry more weight now with the tuning down. In addition, on the defensive side, one big change we've made is if the defensive team gets the puck and before sustained pressure activates, if they can get the puck outside their defensive zone, the decay rate in which the meter will be undone has been increased by 100%. This change was done for a bunch of reasons. One was to make sure that defensive team can counter any work that's happened. It's also sort of tuned the system so that it's not going to happen an abundance of time during gameplay. We want, again, I think we've talked about the pressure system being a complement to the core gameplay. Not every shift in hockey is a sustained pressure shift. And the other cool thing now that's emergent from this tuning is to get sustained pressure, you need to get the puck into the attacking zone, and you need to build on that shift. If that puck escapes the blue line, you're going to have to redo some of the work that's gone in. So the puck now, when it's in, you're attacking. If you continue doing that, you're probably going to get to a chance where sustained pressure kicks in. The defense team can get it out, flattens it, and you're going to have to rebuild that attack next time. So we feel we've addressed these issues, and I think honestly made it more.
First, let's start with the exhaust engine, the sustained pressure system, and goalie fatigue. Puck possession has been tuned down 30%. The sustained pressure system, the main concern amongst the community was that there would be a lot of puck ragging, and with that, I agree. There was a lot of times where I and other players decided that we were just going to rag the puck on the outside part of the zone in order to increase the meter, which would allow us to get full pressure. This was a big issue because it didn't really require you to take any shots or land any hits more than it was puck possession. Well, now it's going to take that 30-second time and move it up to just under 40 seconds, which is going to give us more time to set up defensively and attack puck carrier and hopefully get that puck back. It's going to really incentivize more shots and big, massive hits in order for you to fill up that meter rather than just playing perimeter offense. Also included in sustained pressure tuning is the decay rate. The decay rate of the pressure meter has been increased 100%. This basically means that when the puck exited the offensive zone, the sustained pressure meter would slowly reduce back down to 0. Well, now with this patch, it's going to move back down to 0 a lot faster. This means that players will be forced to maintain pressure in the offensive zone, set up quick plays, and maintain possession in the offensive zone rather than circle back, reset, and look for line changes. EA wants the sustained pressure system to be complementary to the overall gameplay and not overtake it entirely. This patch aims to achieve that by forcing players once again to actually build plays, pass the puck, land big hits. It's meant to reward real hockey. Taking shots is going to tire the goalie. Applying a solid forecheck and landing big hits on defenders is going to build up that pressure meter. It's going to get the boys all riled up. It's going to get your attributes high, and once you do that, you're going to be able to get a really good shot on goal and score from literally anywhere on the ice, as seen in the tech test. D-to-D one-timers, slot one-timers, slot shots, snap shots, rebounds, you name it. The sustained pressure system is going to be big, but hopefully with this patch, it'll balance it out a little bit more to make defense a little bit easier rather than it being a gong show spread all across the crease. Next up, we have tuning regarding the goalie fatigue system.
The first one is the goalie starting to recover when the puck exits the defensive zone. So if you just had a huge flurry on the goalie, the second the puck now exits your own team zone, your goalie will start to get some energy back. And what people played in the CPT, it was the opposing team's blue line is where we had it. And so it was definitely far too loose. One that's more just one that helps to communicate the state of the goalie, making the goalie fatigue meter always visible. We've also linked the system more into goalie attributes now. So in the CPT, Goalie fatigue was sort of a universal, uniform thing that wasn't really worked into goalie attributes the way it should have been. So how fast the goalie drains, how fast the goalie recovers, there will be a relationship to the goalie's respective attributes. So a better rated goalie will recover faster and drain a little bit slower. And probably the one that's going to carry the most weight in everything that we're talking about is creating states around the goalie's fatigue levels. So if a goalie is 50% energy left or above, they're going to remain in what we call a stable and positional state. So again, in the CPT, we heard everybody loud and clear. They were just kind of fish flopping out of water in the crease way too much. If your goalie is rested, they're going to be throwing more what we call traditional saves, closing down angles, using the butterfly, not flopping. The second they get below 50%, the desperation save opportunities will start to climb. And so the more tired the goalie gets, the more likely they're going to be taking more risks because they're just in that state where their energy has been completely depleted.
In the technical play test, players were complaining a lot about how goalies would sprawl out everywhere along the ice. Now with patches, the goalie recovery will occur when the puck exits the defensive zone. Previously in the tech test, what would happen is that your goalie's energy would only regenerate once you entered the opponent's offensive zone. This means that when there were turnovers in the neutral zone and players would head back into your zone, your goalie will not have recovered their energy, which means that once they take one shot, if your goalie's energy was low, they would be flopping like a fish out of water. Now, once the puck leaves the defensive zone, your goalie's energy will drain faster, which means now there's a delicate balance of whether you want to exit the puck with control or just dump the puck out in hopes of getting your goalie's energy recovering faster, and therefore giving you a chance to survive another attack rather than, you have an onslaught, player exits the zone, come back in, takes one shot, and your goalie's flopping. A massive quality of life patch that they introduced was allowing us to see the fatigue meter at all times, both ours and our opponents. This will help us gain a better understanding of when to finally attack against a goalie and how to better defend against a goalie who may be tired. Again, once you see your goalie under 50% stamina, which is when your goalie leaves a stable, neutral, save animation zone, you'll know that you just need to get the puck out rather than taking a chance and allowing the offense to set up and get those juicy rebound or deflection goals. Meanwhile, that also means that you'll know on offense when to go for a tip shot or when to go for a rebound or when to just throw a shot from the point, a seeing eye shot, for example, trying to beat the goalie, because those goalies will be unpredictable. Another big patch is they have finally tied goaltender attributes to the impact on drain and recovery for goalie energy. Mike Engelhart stated in the video that basically what was going on is that for the lacrosse move, for the glass breaking, the net dislodging, and the goalie fatigue, it was all kind of universal. It didn't really matter, for example, the size of the players for breaking the glass. It didn't really matter what the deking attribute was for lacrosse. And with this, goalie endurance stat and overall did not apply to the drain or recovery. Every goalie recovered easily. Or recovered the same, I should say. Now, goalie attributes actually have an impact on the drain and recovery. If a goalie has lower endurance, they're not going to be able to hold their energy as long. Goalies who are higher overall are going to be able to recover faster. This is very important because now it means that you shouldn't just pick the 70 overall 6'8" Ben Bishop, because now you're going to need a goalie who's going to be able to recover properly using the energy system. Finally, for the goalie fatigue tuning, they have made goalies more stable when rested. Goalies have been tuned to be more stable and positional when above 50% energy. This means that you will see fewer desperation saves overall when a goalie is what is deemed a reasonable rested state. That is their quote from the website, and I hope it works, because when playing the technical test, I noticed that goalies would start flopping at around 70% energy. This became a huge problem when all you realize is that the sustained pressure meter actually drains the goalie's energy, simple puck possession. So you would be able to cycle around the zone for about 15 seconds, drain the goalie's energy, and throw a shot on, maybe throw 2 shots on, snapshots, very easy to save, no screen, and the goalies would start just flopping on the ice. I've used the term flopping like a fish out of water, but it's true, the goalies flopped a lot. The goalies were very sound positionally when their energy was maxed. Actually, it was almost hard to score wrist shots or one timers when they had full energy. But once they dropped to around 70%, the goals that you would see in previous years started to go in more. You know, those high slot wristers, those one timers, the deflections. Sometimes they would even animate wrong. You could shoot 5-hole on a goalie and they would go for a back, or they'd go for a blocker animation, which was pretty problematic. So hopefully with this in a more stable slot, they'll be able to direct their rebounds. The goalie AI will be able to choose proper animations, and we'll have more consistent goaltending while also having some of that fun once you've actually properly drained a goalie's energy. This paired with the changes to the sustained pressure system, taking that 30 seconds and moving up to 40 seconds for the sustained pressure meter to fill due to sole puck possession, means that we'll have a more balanced defensive structure, which will hopefully work well with the added offensive tools like one-touch passing and total control deking. Hopefully this will just create a better game and a better feel and less randomness amongst the goalies.
Base contact side, first thing we did, we increased the damage that a big hit does to stamina. Again, we put a lot of work in the game this year of having different types of recovery. So we did a change there to make sure that the recoveries that happen, the reward that you get for throwing a big hit, that the players are getting that benefit in the game. As far as reverse hits go, there's a couple things that we've done there. The first one is player size plays much more of a part now in terms of the impact. So smaller players, they can stand up a big defender, and there is timing windows in there where you could actually knock a bigger player over, but it's not going to be as gratuitous as it was. So size will play a much bigger part in the reverse hits. As well as what we did, the reverse hit was very, beneficial for the player that threw it. You could run over a player and you'd suffer no speed loss, which again, reverse hits are, they're devastating. There's something that you can retain possession with, but there's no way you can continue skating at full speed. So we've also added in a slight bit of friction when the check is thrown. So the player that throws the reverse check will slow down ever so slightly. So I think both those changes will really help with the feedback we got around reverse hits. And then lastly, hip checks and low speeds. So we've addressed that. You're not going to see the hip checks are kind of one of those things. It's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. It definitely, we still find ourselves stopping and watching the replays because there's just some great moments in there. I mean, they're dramatic in the NHL in the first place. But if players are going, a couple miles an hour, you're not going to see the stuff that you saw in the CPT. So just dialing that in to get more of a representative outcome. If you throw a hip and you're moving slow and the skater's moving slow, they're going to bump together. You're not going to see a head over heels reaction in that situation.
Next on the agenda is physics-based contact. If you played the technical test, you would have known that hits are back in NHL 24. Big shoulder checks, smaller bumps. Reverse checking is universal now, and hip checks are back, just like the old days. Now, with the patch, big checks are going to deal slightly more stamina damage, which is going to allow you to take those big hits and turn them into counterattack opportunities the other way. Also, player size is going to matter more on reverse hit outcome. We've all seen the clip from the trailer where Cale Makar absolutely trucks that player and is able to maintain with full speed. Well, now someone who is like Milan Lucic is going to be able to throw a reverse check a lot more effective than Cale Makar. Also, when performing reverse hit, you are going to slow down a little bit. A big problem in the technical test is that you'd be able to throw a reverse check and you would be able to just breeze right through, get a breakaway, a 2-on-1, no loss in speed at all. Well, now with true physics being added, now you're going to have a slight slowdown. There's going to be some friction there, and it's going to allow the defense to take a step back. Reverse checking being universal in NHL 24 is a great idea. It adds a bit of a skill gap to hitting now, rather than players being able to chase you like a chicken with their head cut off. They actually have to maybe feint an attack, feint a hit, be a little bit more strategic on where to hit you. If you're cornered and you're trying to accelerate, you're not going to be able to reverse check, they'll be able to hit you. But if they're just gliding in open ice, they're going to have to be a bit worried about laying the body, or you might lay it right back and hit them with that Uno reverse card. And finally, when it comes to physics-based contact, hip checks have been patched as well. In the beta, you could go 1 kilometer an hour, literally as slow as a snail, throw a hip check, and the player would flip over you like they were going over the top rope in a Royal Rumble. Now that won't be the case. Speed will matter for the hip check, so now you can't just hold out L1 and right stick and hope for a massive hip check. You're going to actually have to time it and get some speed. The offense is going to be able to recognize that you are going for it probably a little bit earlier, so you won't be able to just pull it out of nowhere, but it's definitely going to be a bit more realistic, and the hits are still going to be great. You're still going to be able to use it along the boards in order to close off a gap or prevent someone from going behind the net. So no worry, they're still as effective as before, just you can't do them at low speeds, which I think is good for the game. This may seem like a small patch, but if you play the technical test, you know it's a big patch. Global lacrosse deke tuning. The lacrosse deke in the beta was not tied to the deking attribute. This basically meant that you could take a 65 overall enforcer and do the Michigan like Trevor Zegras with his eyes closed. Now that won't be the case. The lacrosse, you'll still be able to do it with lower deking, but it's going to be really slow and you might mess it up on the handle when you go around the net more. This is a good thing because we can't have games where people are doing Michigans everywhere. I was using them in the technical test on breakaways. They were automatic. I did not have to worry about who was near me. A big thing that I did notice though, and I don't know if anyone else noticed this, if you trip someone when they're in the middle of the Michigan, you will not get a penalty. So I wonder if EA knows about that. Next up, our prayers have been answered. Close quarters has gotten the axe. Not completely, of course. It's just been tuned a bit. The close quarters X Factor is the only X Factor that, from what I've understood, has been publicly announced as being nerfed. Now, close quarters is going to have a reduced distance, taking it from 30 feet, which was about the face-off dots, and reduce it down to 20 feet, which is about the bottom of the circles. Also, the accuracy bonus of close quarters gold has been reduced by 50%, and the accuracy bonus of close quarters superstar ability, or close quarters silver, it has been reduced by 75%. This is substantial, and it's going to help both human goalies and AI goalies. There's been too many times where players have been bailed out in bad shooting positioning, bad shooting animations, and they get bailed out by a perfect accuracy close quarter shot. No longer should that be the case. Emphasis on should. Next up, for all my human goalies out there, we have gotten our answer on what controls we should be using in NHL 24. And the answer is still the new controls. I understand that people hate these new controls, but you're going to have to get used to it because the patches they have implemented are really going to create a skill gap between those who want to keep the old controls and use the new ones, and you'll see why in a second here. Patch number 1 for the goalies. Increased tether distance. A human goalie using the new tether controls has an expanded area to move within this control set. We have increased the movement range from 3 to 5 feet, allowing for more ability to cut down angles and overall freedom of movement. Goalies were having a hard time moving. When I would use goalie in Hockey Ultimate Team or in ESHL, I found myself hugging the post a lot, and it really made me want to go back to the old controls. But with increased movement, maybe more micro movement capabilities, less finicky of, oh, am I too close to the left and I'm going to hug the post or I'm going to overlap it? It's kind of like a math equation. Goalies were having a rough time. More distance around the crease, being able to move and whatnot is going to make this control scheme better. Secondly, they have increased the goalie instinct boost when correct. They have added instinct to goaltending this year, which basically means you can predict where a shot's going to go, and you'll get a boost in attributes and a boost in save ability if you guess correctly. Of course, if you're on the wrong side of the net and someone picks a snipe, you're not going to be able to save it regardless. But now it's going to be able to give you that little extra bit of reaction time, that little bit of extra distance in order to make a save if you choose correctly. You can only use goalie instinct in the new control system, and they have removed the goalie instinct penalty when you're incorrect. Now there's no penalty at all for if you guess wrong, but again, you can always, guess right and get that boost. So there's no downfall to learning the new tether system, because if you master the new tether system, the skill gap is going to be exponentially larger than a goalie who's sticking on the old controls, because they don't get that ability to guess, because you can guess wrong and still make the save. But if you guess right, you can make a save that you would have never had a chance on in 23. Finally, they have reduced the fatigue impact on human goalies. Goalies were struggling with the sustained pressure system, and now players, especially in sixes, how they're all working as one massive unit together. We're just able to keep the puck cycle, and a goalie's energy would be drained really fast, and it became a let's shoot the puck from the point fest, because the goalies couldn't really control their animations either. They would start flopping too automatically. Well, Now they've just reduced the impact, and hopefully it's going to allow teams to set up better defenses and not have to worry so much about getting the puck back immediately because a goalie's energy has declined to the point where they can't make a save. This is a really good change, especially for 6v6, where there's no line changes, there's none of that. Players have to regain their own energy. Reducing the impact for goalies is going to allow goalies to control more about what goes on in the game rather than everything being dictated by whether or not the team that they're facing is really good at cycling the puck or keeping it to the perimeter. So giving more control back to the goalies is fantastic. Next up, for all my lightsaber fighters out there, the poke check has been tuned from the tech test as well. The tech test offered another nerf to the poke check in NHL 24. In NHL 23, they had nerfed it substantially from 22, taking it from what is known as the wiggle stick back down to a more reasonable, if you poke, you slow down type thing. Well, now, in NHL 24, there was an issue where you would lose speed and you couldn't really accelerate when poking. You would have to close your gap between the attacker and yourself really hard in order to be able to land successful poke checks. They were really successful behind the net, though. I noticed if a player was cycling, you could throw a poke as they're trying to go around the net, and you would be fine. There would be no penalties. But basically, what they've done is they've given players more defensive tools with hitting, board playing, and they have also brought back or buffed the poke check back to what it was in 23 compared to 24, which has really given us an overall defensive package that is very usable for NHL 24. That, combined with the offensive tools that we've been given, makes me feel like games are going to end 4-2, 5-3. They're not going to have 9-8 games every game. We're not going to have 2-1 games like we did in NHL 22. There's going to be a nice balance, and good job to EA for bringing back the poke check from 23, because NHL 24 poke check was borderline unusable. Someone could straight line you and you would have no chance. Now we have good potty checking, we have balanced poke checking. We're in good spot with defense in NHL 24. Lastly, we have some general gameplay tuning and some miscellaneous items to pick up on. Community feedback was that the nets were getting dislodged a lot, and glass was breaking a lot on hits that shouldn't have shattered glass. So what they've done is that they have decreased the frequency of both things happening, nets coming off and glass shattering. For me personally, I found out while defending a 2-on-1 that I could just go and dive at my goalpost and just completely ruin a player's 2-on-1 because the nets would come off so easy. So that is good. We shouldn't, in my opinion, we shouldn't have any net break or net dislodges, any glass breaking, any stick breaking in an online mode that is competitive. But if they're going to add it back, you got to make it as seldom or happen as seldomly as it does in real life. We can't be having games where the net is coming off because I've taken a slap shot with Zdeno Chara or any of those guys with 9-9 power, because that happened to me once and I was a little bit irritated. Now let's get it back to a more realistic level. No more overtuning this stuff, please, EA, but thank you for the patch. And that's all for patch notes for NHL 24. The game hasn't even dropped yet, and EA is already listening to our opinion. So let's hope that NHL 24 is going to continue to be supported well by EA. I really trust their new developers now. Thanks to Mike Engelhart for actually doing the interview with Sleeveless Gaming, or No Sleeves 12. I'll leave a link to Cam's video in the description so you can watch that for yourself. But again, that is all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with more NHL 24 videos, Hockey Ultimate Team coming in the fall for October. We got a big year coming up in this game. I hope it's back, baby. Let's go.